Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a book haul of all of the books that I picked up when I was in my honeymoon in Portland. I ended up getting 10 books, I think, in this pile next to me. I kind of knew going into it that I was going to be getting a lot of books while we were on our honeymoon, just because Portland is known for having a very famous, huge used bookstore, which is Powell's. We went to two different Powell's locations, the one on Hawthorne as well as the one on Burnside, which is their big flagship store. And we also went to some other smaller bookstores. We went to Backstory Books and Yarn, Daedalus Books, and Kinokuniya. I feel like I did pretty well. I'm pretty sure I calculated how much I spent on all these books, and the total was just over $100. And part of the reason why I was willing to go a little bit ham and get a lot of books at one time was because I had just been kind of saving up and thinking of all the books that I wanted to add to my collection, and I thought this would be like the best opportunity to get them. I'm so jealous of booktubers that do like half-price books hauls because there are no half-price books locations in the greater Philadelphia area. So it's been pretty hard for me to find used books in person that are from the genres that I'm interested in. In particular, I've been finding it hard to find like new YA used books. But over the course of the trip, I did manage to get a lot of the books that were on my backlist, so I'm pretty happy with that. So all of the books I got were either ones that are ones I've already read and really enjoyed and wanted to add to my permanent collection, or they are books from authors that I've read from before that I know I like their writing style, and I figured that I would take a chance, even if I didn't know this book specifically, that I would still probably like it because I like their other books. Like I said, the majority of these were ones that I kind of had on my radar ahead of time. There was one that was actually the most expensive book I bought, which was a little bit of an impulse buy, but I'm very glad with all of my purchases regardless. So with this long intro out of the way, let's get into the video. So let's start off with the impulse buy, which is the book that I bought from Kinokuniya, and that is this copy of Hell Ladies by Junko Mizuno. This is an art book of hers that focuses on her early works from 1998 to 2001. I really love Junko Mizuno. She's one of my favorite Japanese illustrators, and I really like her early works. I'm more interested in her works from like the early 2000s, around like 2003 to 2005. But when I saw this book, I was immediately blown away and really wanted it. I did step away from it, but then I ended up going back to Kinokuniya because I figured if I'm going to get it, I might as well get it in person and buy it from Kinokuniya instead of getting it from like Amazon later on. I honestly don't think I can show you a single one of the pages inside of here showing her art because pretty much all of her art involves like topless girls. I really enjoy her like quirky, subversive kawaii art style. I think it's really unique. Like I said, I like a little bit later on in her timeline, so this doesn't have a lot of my like favorite art pieces from her, but there was a lot of pieces in here that I really enjoy. So yeah, this was like one of the most expensive. It was like $30 new. I really love the design of the book. It kind of feels like a child's board book. And then when you first open it, there's this section where you can write like this book belongs to and then your name. I guess at least in this you can see some of like the patterning that's on the book itself. The next book I ended up picking up from Daedalus Books, and that was Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adeep Karam. I read this book and I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I knew I wanted to get the paperback version, and I just have had a hard time finding it from my local like Barnes & Nobles. And this was a used copy that they had there. There was only like $8, so I figured I would go ahead and get it. If you haven't heard me talk about this book before, I'll link up above my Reading Queer YA where I read this as one of my books. But yes, I'm very excited to have this. I'll probably eventually look into getting the sequel also in paperback in the future as well. The next book I got was from Backstory Books and Yarn, which was on Hawthorne, and that is Goldenhand by Garth Nix. This is the 5th book in the Old Kingdom series. I read the previous 3 in the series, and then the 4th book is actually like a prequel, so I think technically in the storyline this is the next one in the timeline. I don't think they had the 4th one at the store, which is why I ended up getting this one instead. But I'm not really sure if I'm going to read them out of order or actually go in the sequential order that they were published in. This I think was new, but it also was only like $10, so I was more than happy to pick it up. And I decided I was going to get the 4th and 5th volume in paperback because I have the rest of the series in the mass market paperback versions. Unfortunately, the newer volumes don't have the nice illustrated covers that the original volumes did, but at least they'll somewhat look matching because they'll all be like the same format. And those are mass market paperback, whereas these are paperback. So they won't necessarily be a great matching set, but I think it's probably as close as I'm going to be able to get. This next book here is one I got from Powell's, and that is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This was a used hardback, which I was very happy to see. I read this book at the very end of last year, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I've been reading from a library copy, and I knew that eventually I was going to want to add it to my collection. Another reason is that my wife had read a part of this book, but not finished it by the time I had to return it. So now that I have a physical copy that I own, I can just kind of like lend it out to her to read at her leisure without any like due dates coming up. And if you want more of a review on this book, I talked about it in one of my Journal With Me spreads where I talked about like the recent books that I had read that I'll also link up above. So this was one of the books that I got from the Powell's location in Hawthorne. And the other book I got from the Powell's location in Hawthorne was one that they only had in stock there and not the main flagship store, and that was Forestfall by Lyndall Clipstone. I wanted to get this book as soon as it came out, but I figured since I was already going to be like pretty close to the release date in Portland and near a bunch of bookstores, I decided to wait to get it new from a store there. So this is the sequel to Lake's Edge, which is a book I really enjoyed that I talk about numerous times on my channel. I'm really excited. I want to read this before the fall time is completely gone, so this will probably be featured in an upcoming reading vlog. This book I ended up getting new because it had just come out at the very end of September, I believe. But since I already own the previous book in the series, I definitely knew I wanted to complete the duology and get this one. Okay, the last set of books we are going to be talking about are all ones I got from the Powell's flagship store. The first one of those is a used copy of The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. This is the second book in the Montague siblings series, the first one being The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I originally read all of these series on audiobook, and I've been slowly working through buying all of them in the original hardcover releases. So I'm very happy that I now own the entire set, including the novella in hardback. The next book I ended up picking up is Across the Wall by Garth Nix. This is a short story collection that contains some stories that are set in the Old Kingdom universe, as well as some other original side stories, as well as stories that are set in some of Garth Nix's other series. But with a name like Across the Wall, and the cover being an illustration of Lyrael and Nick, the majority of the stories, I believe, are set in the Old Kingdom world. This was another used hardcover, and I'm very excited to have this version of the book. I just love the original illustration style that was done for the Old Kingdom trilogy. I don't know if this illustrator's not active anymore, but I really wish that they did illustrated covers for Clariel and Goldenhand. Even though this book is hardback and it's much larger than the other books I have in this series, I think since it has the same illustration style, that will at least link it to the original trilogy paperbacks that I have. And I'm very excited to read this. I know at least one of the short stories is supposed to be set right post a Porson, and focuses on Nick, and I'm really excited to see more of his character development. So this will probably be added onto my TBR relatively soon. And the last book I'm going to be including in this haul is Blood and Gold by Anne Rice. This is one of the books in the Vampire Chronicles series. Do not ask me which one. The only thing I know about this is Marius's backstory book. And I know it's primarily a historical fiction set during the Roman Empire. I'm very, very pleased because this is a used hardback, so it was only $10. Because obviously a hardback adult novel usually is around $30. And I'm also pretty sure that this particular version of the book with this cover and it in hardback is somewhat rare. So I'm very pleased to get this. It'll also match some of the other Vampire Chronicles books that I have. So this right here is the stack of all the books I got. These are very precariously perched. I feel like at any moment they're going to come tumbling down. So that is it for this book haul. I hope you enjoyed the video. I decided to keep this video strictly the books that I got during my Portland honeymoon trip, but I have picked up a couple other books that I'll probably include in a future haul before the end of the year. Please let me know down below if you've read any of the books I hauled today and what your opinions of them are. Like I said before, a good chunk of these books I have read before, but a lot of them I haven't, and I'm very excited to get to them in the near future. Anyway, that is it for me today. Please consider liking this video or subscribing if you aren't already. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!